Perfect. Hi there, everyone. My name is Natalie Vlatko. My pronouns are she, her. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Special Interest Group for Documentation, SIG Docs, as we call ourselves, here for Kubernetes. I want to welcome everyone to today's meeting on this Tuesday, the 25th of June, 2024, there in YouTube land for folks watching later on. Big thanks for all who are joining us today. I can see that we've got a couple of our other folks, our leadership folks also in tow. Hi to Xander, one of our new tech leads who's joined, and hi to Abigail, who I can see on the meeting too, who's our localization sub-project lead. However, many of us also hold other roles, specifically in the Kubernetes project, which we'll hear about a little bit later in some of our updates. And so what I wanted to do to kick us off here is to just double check a couple of things. Firstly, given that this is a Kubernetes based meeting, we abide by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct. And what that means is to generally respect one another in terms of how we collaborate and participate in discussions and work. And that means not only here in this meeting, but also on Slack, in PRs and issues and so on, everywhere that we're going to be working together. We want each other to show each other some respect and kindness in how we work. If you do have issues, we will be going through the agenda very shortly so that you'll have a way to be able to report on some of those code of conduct issues. With that being said, I wanted to quickly give room for folks who maybe are new to this meeting, who might want to say hello and introduce themselves. Not saying hi is completely okay too. It's absolutely no worries. Alrighty. For those who are wanting to perhaps say hi in the chat, you can also do so, or add yourself to the agenda after the fact. That's also all right too. Okay. I'll keep going with the rest of the meeting agenda now. So for a few things in terms of reminders. Firstly, for SIG Docs, we have what we call a PR wrangling type of role, where every week one of our approvers is kind of on the hook to look at our different PRs and contributions that are coming in and to move those contributions throughout the PR cycle. This week's wrangler is Kat Cosgrove, one of our tech leads who isn't able to be at the meeting today. And Kat is being shadowed by Abdelatif Aitbara, I believe. And so if anyone needs any kind of PRs that reviewed and looked at, you can absolutely jump into our Slack channel at SIG Docs and look out for Kat to try and get a review there as well. Next week's PR wrangler is going to be Ray Lahano, one of our co-chairs as well, also going to be shadowed by Niranjan. And then the following week's PR wrangler is Nate Warrington, who I can see on the call. Hi, Nate. So approvers, those of you who are on the call, please remember to look at your PR wrangling shifts. If there is an issue with a shift that you can't do, no problem. Come into the SIG Docs maintainers channel and we can try and make sure we can swap folks out. That's absolutely no problem at all. Okay. Moving on to the next part of our agenda, which is what we call issue wrangling. This is a very similar role to PR wrangling, but it's us looking at issues that are in the SIG Docs repository. We have a lot, and so we're trying to make sure we can triage as many as possible so that new folks or folks looking to contribute to different issues that we are highlighting are able to do so. And with that, this week's issue wrangler is Abigail, who's on the call as well. And then next week's is Xander. For folks who are looking for issues that they want further clarification on, you can absolutely chime in and check in with some of our issue wranglers as well for that, or comment on the issue itself, also tagging folks. That's completely okay too. Reviewers, this is for issue wranglers, people who generally have reviewing privileges. Remember to check your wrangling shifts. And again, if you're not able to do anything, we can absolutely swap folks out or miss a shift here or there. Just let us know in advance and we can help. Finally, if you notice a code of conduct issue in terms of out of event meeting, while we're collaborating in different PRs and issues, you can absolutely reach out to the committee at conduct@kubernetes.io. You can remain anonymous, and I definitely urge you to do so if you feel like that there's been a violation either with you involved or you that you've been privy to. All right. Done a lot of talking. Thanks for bearing with me, folks. We'll go on now to the next part of the rest of our agenda for the meeting. And we always start the SIG Docs meeting with an update on the current release. I do believe the release that we're looking at right now is 131. And I would love to start with a docs update.
Hey, so my name is Daniel. I'm from the Release Docs team. I'm a shadow on that team. So our status right now for that is yellow. The branch sync, I just checked before joining this meeting. It has been merged now, so we're good there. We have reached out to most of or to all of the our Kubernetes enhancement proposals, so KEP contributors, to open the draft PR. So they've all got the reminders, but the deadline is this Thursday. I think right now we're just waiting on 19 of them to open that PR at least. So yeah, I think we're tracking that, and we've got kind of notifications out in Slack as well as GitHub. So yeah.
All right. Thanks so much. Any other further comments or questions for the docs update? Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to actually say something on docs. Princess here, docs lead. So I think our status is actually red because there are a lot of PRs that have not been raised yet. A lot of people have not raised draft PRs, and the deadline is the day after tomorrow. So I actually need help on that. If you're here and maybe you're a SIG lead or there are people that you can reach out to, please. I'd need help on that. So our status is actually red.
Okay. I'm not sure I would personally equate PRs not open as red, given that we're not at the deadline just yet. I know we're right at like against it, but we can absolutely help you as well. So thank you for requesting that for sure. What would be great, if you don't mind, if you could actually come into the SIG Docs Slack channel and give us a list of the enhancements that you want us to kind of push on. We're happy to absolutely do that. I'll have about an hour or so after the meeting that I can do a few of those pushes on. And then I know we've got a couple of folks who are Ray in particular, who's currently at a conference, but might be able to get a push out of him or two. But there's a few of us in different time zones that can absolutely help out. Just let us know in the SIG Docs channel exactly which ones you need the help with, Princess, and we can do so for sure.
There have also been, I'll add real quick, there have been pretty regular reminders on both GitHub and in the various SIG Slack channels for the enhancement owners that do own the various KEPs that haven't raised PRs yet. Like I do think that the Princess and the team have done a fairly good job of staying on top of the notifications. So I've said this before as part of the release team, since, for a long time. At the end of the day, it is their responsibility to open the PR, and all we can do is continue to notify them. So, Princess, I would say, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I think you are doing a good job of reaching out and notifying them. And at the end of the day, if they don't open it, you've done what you can to raise their attention. So we will continue to reach out. But they've got to be the ones to open the PR. So that's, yeah.
I also want to point out too, we also have added, we've got now the exceptions process for docs as well, and a very, very specific blocker for, those enhancement owners who don't do this work. There is a way that we can kind of work on this. I would say very much agreeing with Xander here that if there wasn't any of the follow-up and the current amount of folks who hadn't opened PRs was how it is, I think that would be a different status update versus the docs team has done a bunch of work and everything we can, and this is still not happening because you can't open the PRs yourselves. So I do want to state that I don't think that's on you specifically, not. With that being said, for some reason, I think unfortunately we sometimes do know the reason, but it could be that a message is a little bit better received because a SIG lead says it as opposed to a docs shadow. So we can definitely push on a couple more of the folks that you think are do need it. So please come into the SIG docs channel and let us know which one of those enhancements and PRs that we should be jumping into. I would specifically go in there, for example, and tag not only the enhancement owner, but the SIG leads as well and say, hey, get your contributor to do this work. Or their enhancement is at risk. So yeah, I can use some wording like that to help out.
Yeah, for what it's worth, in the last cycle 130, the metrics looked pretty much identical to where they're at now, 2 days before the deadline. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think y'all are doing a wonderful job. And I think when we hit Thursday and there's not, maybe there's some that still don't have the PR open, that would be a really good time to reach out to SIG leads to try to get their help.
Cool. Thanks for the extra comments, Princess. Thanks for the extra context too. We do like people who are, in terms of like updates and things like this, who are giving as much information as possible. I think it's good that you're worried. But I do think that we've got it's a tiny bit of time, but we have a little bit of time before we need to really, really pull a lot of strings. However, my office still stands if you want some help in the next after the meeting in the next couple hours after that, to push on a couple of enhancements to owners that you think need it. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to now move over to the comms team, unless there's any other final remarks from docs for this release.
Hello everyone, I'm Edith Bukja. I am also shadow in Commons. Roshan is a little bit sick of the voice, so I thank you so much for the space also, Roshan. I will say the status for Commons. Our status is green for now. We are working on the middle cycle block. Hopefully we can get a response by this Friday. I'm also reviewing, we are also reviewing and following up with keeps and updating the board that we have. Accordingly, the placeholder deadline is for July 3rd. We have already 8 keeps with opt-in or placeholder for request. We updated them. We completed the initial major teams outreach.
Great. Thank you so much for the update. Any other further comments for comms? All right. Thanks so much. Thanks, release team folks, for your update. It's always great to hear about how that work's progressing. Very much appreciated. And also thanks for all the comments in the chat too that I'm following. So thank you so much. We're going to be moving on to the next part of the agenda, and it's actually very, very light. So we might be able to all get out of this meeting a little earlier today. The only issue and PR link that we have here is actually from Nate. So Nate, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Hello, I'll try and keep it quick. We've got a page find for users in China PR open, and have an LGTM on it, but we're still looking for some reviewers. So I've reached out to the localization team generally and to the localization China team specifically, but we're still looking for reviewers. So here I am asking for folks who can test to test.
Great. Thanks so much, Nate. Great that you've reached out to a few folks already. If we need to find more testers just generally from like any other kind of localization, I think that's okay too. But yeah, more testers definitely needed. Thank you so much. An idea possibly in terms of making sure we can get, how to say, better coverage from the areas that we need. Maybe we could also share this in the CNCF Slack.
That's I was actually thinking about that this morning, potentially sharing it with the glossary localization team.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific channel you're thinking of? Because I'd be happy to share it.
I wasn't thinking of a specific channel. It was just more so because it does touch a lot more people and projects often. Or maybe not a lot more people, but a wider scope of people. So
Okay.
not sure which channel just yet, but I'm not sure if there's a glossary channel. Actually, I'd have to have a look.
Well, I know there's a glossary channel. So I've mostly been reaching out to localization folks first, but I think we could request more generally. I think probably I can't remember if I've dropped this in SIG docs yet on Kubernetes, but I could also drop it in tech docs in CNCF, as well as the glossary localization channel. They're just great bunch of folks who are always willing to help out. So, but I think it might be a good time now to go beyond the localization teams, because I think that it's more, I mean, it's still a users in China issue or PR, but it's more general than just localization teams, I think, at this point.
Cool. The other suggestion I would also say is that part of the communication around it needs to also be tested by general folks, might be missing. People may not be testing because they think it's not in their region needed to test. So maybe jumping back into not only the CNCF Slack, but maybe SIG docs to remind folks that you need people out even outside the region to test would be really great.
Yeah, that's good call. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks so much. Any further questions on the possible page find fix that we have for our users in China? For a quick background there for folks who need to know, we needed to replace Bing as the default search in that region, which is why this PR has come up. And Nate and the CNCF folks have done a great job here. All right, this is the last call for anyone who wants to mention a certain issue or PR that they'd like to discuss on the agenda today. All right, thanks so much. We're going to go now to our last agenda item around the questions or discussion points. Xander, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Oh, yeah, I have this on here, didn't I? I added this a while ago. Yeah, so normally at the contributor summit at KubeCon, well, I shouldn't say normally, sometimes at the contributor summit, we have a doc sprint, which is a room set aside at the contributor summit for folks to get together in person and work on documentation PRs. It's looking like at this point for Contrib Summit in Salt Lake City this year, none of the SIG leads, myself, Kat, Natalie, Nate, etc., are available to facilitate the doc sprint this time around. So this is just a public call out to see if anyone is interested in facilitating that sprint, and if not, it's looking like we probably will not host one this time around. So if anyone is interested, hands up, now's the time, or reach out in Slack is another option. Much more practical option, in fact. Nate?
Well, one thing we were thinking about doing, something that came up last time, was that we wanted to do a sort of not a tutorial exactly, but we have a lot of folks who are if I could only speak today, that would be lovely. Trying to think and speak at the same time, apparently it's difficult. So last time we got stymied with etcd and sort of our Hugo Netlify Doxy stack. And so we were considering doing a maybe not specifically for Kubernetes, but also for a lot of the other CNCF projects, a sort of tutorial or a workshop on Netlify Hugo Doxy as it pertains to Kubernetes or etcd or some of these other sites that use it. I didn't want to necessarily do that in the doc sprint. I might do that as a part of the what do we call it? The project pavilion, maybe. The CNCF was thinking of setting up like we had last time, just an area where George is holding a sign up saying, "Ask me anything." So I don't know if we want to sort of connect those two things, or if because it came, the reason I bring it up is it came out of the doc sprint idea. Or they came out of the doc sprint last time, but I'm not sure if that was something you wanted to sort of officially organize, or if you want just me to do it with on the CNCF side, or what. And maybe this is a conversation for offline, but
go ahead and loop me in offline on that, because in that, like, in the case of the project pavilion, I actually likely will have availability to help with that. It's just for the contributor summit, I'm going to have other responsibilities there and will be unable to facilitate a doc sprint.
yeah.
But for project pavilion stuff, I can definitely help with. So we can chat about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the idea, Nate. So firstly, yeah, part of the reason that I'm not able to facilitate is that I don't even know if I'm going to be in Salt Lake City. So I don't want to sign up for something that I will maybe physically not be there for. But I do remember we had contributors and maintainers from I think it was Contour or Carpenter actually quite a while ago, who came to a SIG docs meeting to chat about how they should work with their docs. And our recommendation to them was actually, you need to go to the office hours of the tech writers of the CNCF. And that is a question you need to give for them. But what's interesting is that those questions do come to us too. So that link that you're mentioning is it's not out of this world. I think it could be rather worthwhile. I'm just not sure how that would happen, but I do like your idea for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of, let me drop it in the link here. Our next CNCF Tech Docs open office hours, Tech Docs open office hours. Oops, is actually tomorrow morning at my 8 a.m. So everyone is welcome. I'll clean up that link in just a moment. And connection information is at that link. So we run it every fourth Wednesday. It used to be the last Wednesday of every month, but our scheduling system can't manage that anymore. So it's now every fourth Wednesday. And anything to do with documentation, folks are welcome to come and talk about. Documentation, organization of docs, how to set up a website, any design questions, anything like that. We're always happy to help. So that's that. Thank you for pointing people to that. I don't know if they came and talked to us about that, but yes, that's absolutely something that we're still doing. And it is actually somewhat poorly attended, so I appreciate the call, the shout out. We can get more people coming to that, the better.
Another thing I want to mention, so for folks who maybe don't know what a doc sprint and what we do at any of the doc sprints at Contrib Summit is, just a bit of background too. Basically, we've always, SIG Docs has always been given a space at Contrib Summit, its own specific room, to try and get as many contributors that are around as possible to work together on a specific area of the docs, or maybe specific issues that kind of need to be worked on. And as Nate already mentioned, the last Contributor Summit that was had, that happened in Paris, for KubeCon there, we actually had SIG at CD come and call out to us and say, hey, we actually need a bunch of help with a bunch of our docs. Can we take on your doc sprint and actually use it as that kind of opportunity? And that was really, really great. And then before that, and I think if Abby's still on the call, you can speak to this, Abby, but Abby was able to also organize a really, really great doc sprint around a few cycles back around fixing up our different page weights across a lot of the different kinds of pages that we had, specifically via localization and otherwise, and we're able to open a huge kind of umbrella issue for that and get everyone in the room kind of onboarded in the first 30 or so minutes, and then we're all just kind of chipping away and working at the different pages that needed to be updated and fixed. So it really is an open kind of call of, if you think there's a specific area in the docs that we need to kind of be focusing on, that you think a 3-ish hour time period, even though it's technically longer, but you put lunch in there and people coming and going, it's sometimes can be a bit disruptive, but about a 3-ish hour period of folks getting together to work on a specific task in the docs. If you've got any ideas, we would love to hear from you. And if you'd like to facilitate, even better.
What's do we have a deadline of when you'd need to know that someone's definitely going to be willing to run a doc sprint?
Xander, I think we can probably ask the Contrib Summit folks to just hold the room for us for a certain amount of time, probably.
Yeah, I mean, sooner is definitely better than later, but I can find out from the rest or the Contrib Summit leads and have an answer, next docs meeting. But I do think it's feasible for them to hold the room for a little while at least.
Okay, great. I love helping with the doc sprint, but I am not sure that I'm going to be able to attend the thing. So thank you for doing some early organizing, because usually we're like 2 weeks out being like, what should we do for the doc sprint? So thank you for for thinking about this ahead of time.
Plus one, thank you for that.
Awesome. Any further questions or comments on the doc sprint coming up for KubeCon? All right, we're at the end of our agenda. I wanted to just open the floor just to check. Does anyone have any other topics or things they'd like to chat about before we end today's meeting? All right, that's looking like a no. So what I'm going to do is just stop my sharing right here and say thank you so much to everyone who is come and said hi and who wanted to give us different updates from the release team. Also, thanks folks for adding things to the agenda in the first place. Sometimes we've got a lot to talk about, sometimes not. So thank you so much also all for all your participation and feedback on the different areas. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Thanks, everyone.